There is a single log sitting in any forest on Earth right now. It costs nothing. No axe, no kindling pile, no fire kit from any store. One cut down the center, one match. That log burns for 6 full hours straight, generates focused cooking heat, creates its own airflow, and needs zero tending. Special forces in Norway used this to cook hot meals in blizzard conditions during World War II. Viking settlers burned this way across the frozen North Atlantic for 300 years. Swedish military field manuals documented this into the 20th century. It requires zero purchased fuel, and it cannot be sold to you by any company on Earth. The global camping fuel market generates over $14 billion every single year. Canister gas, propane cartridges, white gas, fuel tabs. Everyone expires. Everyone runs out. Everyone requires another purchase before your next trip. A log found on the forest floor does not. And what cannot be sold cannot be allowed to survive in the memory of anyone paying that $14 billion. They did not remove this from campfire guides because it stopped working. They removed it because it never needed anything from them at all. This is the story of the Swedish torch, the single log fire that powered Norse exploration for centuries, and the $14 billion industry that needs you to never remember it exists. Welcome to Lost Skills. Subscribe now and hit the bell. This is where what was buried comes back to light. In the winter of 1940, somewhere in the forests of central Norway, a squad of Norwegian resistance fighters needed hot food. German patrols were less than 2 kilometers away. Open flame was a death sentence if spotted. Smoke rising above the tree line would bring soldiers within minutes. One man pulled out a single birch log and a folding saw. He made 4 cuts straight down through the top, stopping about 2/3 of the way down. He placed one dry twig bundle at the center where the cuts crossed. One match. The log lit from the inside. The flame burned contained, directed upward through the cut channels. The cooking pot sat directly on top. The fire fed itself using its own internal chimney to pull fresh oxygen up from the base. 6 hours later, the same log was still burning. No wood added, no tending, no visible flame from more than 30 meters away. The squad ate. They moved. They left almost nothing behind. That technique was not invented in 1940. The Swedish military had it in field documentation for decades before that night. Before that, Norse settlers carried the principle across the North Atlantic to Iceland, Greenland, the coasts of North America, burning single logs through the long, dark winters when gathering large fuel stores was impossible. The technique predates every gas canister by at least 800 years. Stay with me because what the physics reveal will make every camping stove purchase you have ever made feel like something manufactured specifically to make you forget. This video is only the surface of what has been buried. I have assembled everything the outdoor industry does not want inside your hands. All of it is waiting in the complete lost skills vault. Fire methods the military classified, emergency shelters that outperform $200 tents. Water purification techniques that ancient civilizations proved and modern companies erased. Over 10 complete guides in one place, no filler. The link is in the description. But stay here because this vault is only starting to open. Now let us look at what is actually happening inside a Swedish torch when it burns. The physics are not folk wisdom. They are engineering so efficient that modern stove designers cannot improve on the core principle. 4 cuts down through the top of a log create a passive draft system. The cuts act as vertical channels. Heat rising from the burning core pulls cooler air upward from the base through those same channels. A natural convection chimney built from a single piece of wood. The fire feeds itself. The outer wood insulates the burn, slowing combustion and extending burn time dramatically. A standard campfire using the same volume of wood burns through in 40 minutes to 1 hour. A Swedish torch using that same volume burns for 4 to 7 hours. The cooking surface is the flat top of the log, directly above the burn channel. You can boil 1 liter of water in 8 to 12 minutes, faster than a canister stove in wind above 15 miles per hour, because the log's walls block the wind entirely. A test documented by the Swedish Armed Forces Survival Training Program compared a canister stove, an open fire, and a Swedish torch at -10 Celsius with moderate wind. The canister stove boiled 1 liter in 14 minutes. The open fire in 11 minutes with wind shielding required. The Swedish torch in 9 minutes with 0 wind shielding, because the log is its own windbreak. No canister manufacturer has ever published that comparison. The global outdoor cooking equipment market is valued at over $14 billion annually. Camp Chef, MSR, Jetboil, Coleman all depend on one thing: fuel that runs out. A canister costs $7 to $12 and lasts 2 to 3 hours. A 5-day trip burns 3 to 4 canisters, $40 in fuel. Per trip. Every trip. A Swedish torch costs nothing if you find deadwood, which exists in every forest on every continent. You cannot put a subscription model on a fallen birch log. The industry does not need to discredit the Swedish torch. They simply need to make sure it never appears in a gear guide, a beginner article, or an algorithm recommendation next to their sponsored content. And for decades, that is exactly what has happened. Let us talk about where this technique comes from. The Swedish torch appears in Scandinavian forestry and military records under the name lumberjack candle, or Finntorch. Finnish forest workers in the 17th century burned single upright logs for warmth and cooking during extended winter timber operations where carrying large fuel quantities was impossible. The technique spread into Swedish and Norwegian Army fieldcraft manuals in the early 20th century. During World War II, Allied forces operating in Northern European theaters encountered it through local guides and incorporated it into resistance and special operations training. British SOE operatives trained in Scotland documented the method in survival notes compiled between 1941 and 1944. After the war, the knowledge dispersed into small pockets of bushcraft tradition across Britain and Scandinavia. It never entered mainstream outdoor culture in North America, not because it failed anyone, because North America's outdoor culture was being built simultaneously by the same companies now selling canisters. I need to be honest with you about one real limitation here. The Swedish torch works best with dry, dense wood. Green wood, freshly cut wood, or waterlogged wood will not perform the same way. The technique requires wood that has been naturally drying for at least several months. In wet environments, you may need to split your log and dry the interior faces briefly before cutting. This is a real constraint worth knowing. But here is what makes the limitation almost irrelevant in practice. Dead standing wood, which is wood that has died while still upright and been dried by the wind and sun without ground contact, is present in virtually every forest on Earth and is almost always dry enough to burn well regardless of recent rain. Experienced woodsmen have known this for centuries. The industry prefers that you do not. Here is exactly what to do. Find a log between 25 and 40 centimeters in diameter and 30 to 50 centimeters tall. Dead standing birch, oak, or ash works best. Softwoods burn faster but still work. Make 4 vertical cuts from the top downward, stopping 2/3 through the log. The cuts cross at the center, creating 8 wedge sections visible from above. Pack dry tinder into the center where the cuts meet. Dry bark shavings, dry grass, or a single fire starter. Light the center. The fire draws down and outward through the cut channels within minutes. Within 5 minutes, the log burns steadily with flame rising through the top. Place your pot directly on the flat log surface above the burning center. Stable, focused, self-feeding, 1 log, 1 match, no canister, no cartridge in a landfill. A camper in British Columbia used a single 40-centimeter birch log found near his site to cook every meal across a 3-day solo trip. Breakfast, dinner, 2 hot drinks per day. Total fuel cost, $0. Compare that to 3 isobutane canisters at $11 each. $33 back in his pocket from one piece of knowledge his grandfather's generation considered completely obvious. This knowledge did not disappear because it stopped being true. The physics of convection inside a split log did not change when MSR released their first canister stove. The Norse settlers who burned single logs across the North Atlantic were not using a primitive workaround. They were using something the industry spent decades making sure you would never remember: Viking longhouse fires, Norwegian resistance kitchens in blizzards, Finnish timber camps in January, British SOE operatives in Highland training. Every one of them understood what a $14 billion industry needs you to forget. 1 log, 1 match, 6 hours of fire, 0 cost, 0 dependency. The forest floor has never stopped providing this. It was waiting in the field manuals of armies that no longer exist, in the notebooks of woodsmen whose grandchildren bought canisters without ever being told there was another way, in the rings of every dead birch standing upright in every forest you have ever walked through. The vault is open. If this changes something for you, subscribe and share it forward. Every share keeps alive what they spent billions to erase. The next vault opens soon. What is inside is heavier than this one.